everybody. I am so excited to introduce you to our next speaker. Rhonni DuBose is a magical sprite of a human being. She is a festival maven, a theme park wizard. She is full of restaurant witchcraft and other kinds of magic. I'm not sure why her camera's not on yet. I'm not sure why she's not here on audio yet, but I hope she's coming. There she is. Hi, hello, Rhonni. Welcome. Make sure to take yourself off.
Hello.
I am so excited for you to be here and to explain to people like this weird, amazing, crazy life that you live and how you have made so much magic in this. And so I'm excited to hand it over to you. I will be here in the background if you need me. I told everybody I'm going to run and use the restroom because I haven't for 4 hours, but I'll be back. And I'm excited for you to bring the magic that you have. She is here talking about from the advocacy track about what does it mean to really build a vision and have people go on that journey with you. So welcome, Rhonni DuBose. Everybody, please give her a big round of welcome. Rhonni, I don't know if you have the comments up on your phone or somewhere else, but I'm going to hand it over to you.
I just pulled them up, so I think we're ready. Does everyone hear me? You hear me okay? Fabulous. Fabulous. Hello. My name's Rhonni DuBose. Doesn't matter. I have no agenda about how you say my name, but in different parts of the country, it's said different ways. And I have crafted a life and a career outside the matrix for the last 30 years. I live and work in a nomadic industry, which is Renaissance festivals. And Renaissance festivals in the US are small regional theme parks, usually owned by one person. It's not a big corporate endeavor. At the most, someone owns four shows, but it's a world where you're freelancing and you can learn new skills and sell those skills. So it allows for constant reinvention. And I think it's my 33rd year here. The industry itself is very deadline based. So there's no judgment about where you got your education, how you're plumbed. None of that's important. What's important is what can you get done? What kind of, do you meet deadlines? Do you do a great presentation? Because it is a theater venue. So if you haven't ever been to one, there are these small theme parks that are designed to take a guest back in time 400 or 500 years to a city, a small town in England on the day that royalty is visiting. The village itself is built out of craft shops and they're all working artists. The entire community is built of working artists. A festival will pay for stages, pay for the front gate, they'll pay the entertainment. Within that, there's also food vendors, alcohol vendors, and people juggling and passing a hat. It's pure escapism. And I used to think it was frivolous and unnecessary. And I had a little shift on 9/11 because I was doing a show that was 40 miles from Manhattan. And when we reopened a week later, just like Broadway did, we found how valuable we were to our guests. Humans need that escape. And we also need human interaction, especially when we're immersed in, things are getting more and more separate. We're doing all of our interaction via text, or we're in a world where our cubicle is separate from somebody else's cubicle. But anyway, I'm trying to give you a picture of this. A festival happens. There's 50 permanent festivals in the country. They each happen when the weather is perfect there. So it's going to be spring shows in Atlanta and Dallas, summer shows in Syracuse and Chicago, and winter shows in Florida and Arizona, and a fall show in Houston. Largest show in the country is the one in Houston, and I have 10 restaurants there. So that surrounding of artists has meant that I live in a world, artists tend to be possibilities thinkers. You know, in the 90s and 2000s, I was full-timing in an RV, living a nomadic life, going from show to show and selling my skills as a carpenter, as a designer. And then in the mid 2000s, we started building other businesses besides construction. I love design build. I still design buildings that may be built someday and may never be built, but I love designing small whimsical buildings. And there was a time when I was fluent in building codes in 5 regions. Now, admittedly, there's not a lot of difference. You need to know some snow load differences, some frost line differences, and wind shear differences. Other than that, a building code is a building code. But it meant that yeah, it really was. It's still amazing, Suzanne. I was working in different climates when the weather was lovely. So it's like, I spent my summer, for 30 years, I lived 40 miles from Manhattan on the grounds of a botanical garden that had been a botanical garden built in like 1940. It was gorgeous. But around mid 2000s, I'm very strategic. That's just how I'm wired. And I realized that having all of our eggs in a basket, that design build basket that's based on our physicality, was not good long-term planning. So started building different businesses and got more into restaurants. I had been in, 5 ponds, all these exquisite trees. It's the botanical garden was amazing. My father managed NCO clubs and officers clubs. So I grew up in restaurants, and some of the freelancing I did from the beginning in my Renaissance Festival career was I did all the hiring for the food programs at multiple shows. I do the hiring, I would do all the training, and then we would go and open up the next show because we need a month before the show to do whatever construction was necessary. And then we started opening our own restaurants, which is one of the more lucrative paths. I don't know that it's actually that more lucrative than, say, being a jeweler or painting paintings, or being a pen and ink artist that can do good reproductions of their work. But the artist community is very, very influenced by the starving artist narrative. We are all swimming in it. And that environment puts a cap on a lot of what we can do. It's like, I know some of us not artists, I mean, we've all grown up with fairy tales where the evil overlord is the rich guy, and the good hard worker, how many times have we heard that, is going to end up being the hero. This humble blacksmith is going to save the day. And we're swimming in this languaging that has that the rich guys are the bad guys. And so we end up with a kind of a push-pull against that. Artists also have, there's this very beloved term of that the misunderstood artist or the underappreciated artist means that somehow they're more artsy. And there's unfortunately a lot of camaraderie in sullenness. There's this circling up that happens around this language that just magnetizes more of it. You know, I mean, you could take this this work wasn't appreciated as a call to action that, all right, if I really feel that this work is magical and wonderful, I'm going to put it in front of more people and see if I can find my people. But you have to be willing to be appreciated. So there's this capping, this inability to pile success upon success, because because we won't let ourselves win. And by not letting ourselves win, we're perpetuating the same story we have going on. Some sullenness enjoys similar company. Now, if you have a languaging, if you've got this ongoing conversation that says that the rich are othered, or they're the bad guy or evil, how's that going to feel to your friends when they become wealthy? Do they feel welcome in your circle? Are you still part of their circle? Did you force them to form another circle because they aren't your people anymore? They're other. So, and I don't want this to be all about money, because artists are also very good at not allowing themselves to be rich in other ways. It's like, oh, it's okay that I don't make any money selling this because I'm doing what I love. It's okay, I have enough. It's like, because that's the humble blacksmith from the story only needs enough. And this is part of that storyline that's happening that is so pervasive in arts communities. And I know it's pervasive elsewhere too, but this is where I live. So because we're locked into not wanting to be the bad guy, we're locked into what our own story is about ourselves, we're going to be looking for money and pushing money away at the same time, be looking for ease and pushing ease away at the same time. It's the counter motion. It becomes a self-sabotage setup. It won't let you pile a success upon another success because you don't want to be the bad guy. Now, we could reframe it. The reframe that I used for myself to get myself out of this, because I'm swimming in it too, was I want to be able to support my charities. I want to be able to easily support my charities. I want to make bigger art. You know, I mean, one of my easiest expressions, although my medium really is my life, is my medium is designing buildings. Buildings aren't cheap. So if I want to build a super cute little cottage on my property, I'm either gonna go into my strategic brain and make it pay me somehow, or I've got to make enough money that I can afford to build a little cottage on my property. Or I can design the same cottage and sell the design to somebody, which I've done plenty of that. Yes, I have to. It's not all about money. It's like I had access. Sometimes that's your wealth. Suzanne just talked about how when the abortion pill was going to be outlawed, I went and bought a bunch of them and put them in my company first aid kits. But this the starving artist narrative it's a story. It's just a story. And it's a story that we're all kind of swimming in it. It's been fed to us. It keeps us happy to work hard. And there's nobody at fault for this. We all are complicit. We are all collectively waking up from this conditioning. And one of the places to see how the conditioning works and where you, when you look at families who have generational wealth, that's because they have broken out of the narrative. They don't have that they're bad because they have money. If they read the fairy tale, they know it's a fairy tale. But the working class, because working is good hard workers, we have that. Our definition of ourselves is that we are good hard workers. And so we're stuck in this push-pull. So there are some tips, some strategies for breaking out of that. One is spot when you're doom bonding. Figure out if these people only want to talk about crap, if these people only want to get together so that we can collectively talk about how terrible our lives are or how unfortunate our situation is, then change the conversation. And if you can't change that conversation, if you're not strong enough to steer the whole conversation, change the circle. And that's not easy. It's not easy because we're tribal humans. We want to be part of a community. And so we think that finding our people means that we find the people we have in common, with whom we have something in common. And then we search for the thing we have in common. And that sometimes just falls right back into doom bonding. But be willing to take the gamble on changing your situation. Gambling is part of the human condition. There are no guarantees. There are no sure things. Oops. Do you have me? I seem to be frozen. There we go. Gambling, our agrarian forebears were gamblers. Somebody gambled that it was going to rain enough that when they stuck this squash seed in the ground, it was going to sprout. Our farmers today are gamblers. Do I want to get the sorghum in a week before everybody else? The weather might not actually be good, but I'll get a better price if I'm the first to market. It's part of the human condition to have to gamble on things. So thinking that your inside the matrix life is a sure thing. I go to school, I get a degree, I get a job. That there's no sure thing. And we live in a world where we're all having to market ourselves all the time. This kind of comes up against the humility is good. Like if I have to sell myself to get a better job, or I have to sell my product, whether it's an online product or it is a candle, a piece of jewelry, I have to be able to speak fluently and colorfully and positively about how fabulous it is, which is bumping up against my being humble as being a good person. So back to how to break it. The other piece, you've got spot when you're doom bonding, be willing to gamble, and practice imperfection and gratitude. Gratitude for the imperfection and gratitude for things just as they are right now. You know, this industry doesn't have a lot of maps in it. It's a 50-year-old industry. It started out pretty good old boy, you know, one or two guys started it. People that wanted to start another festival worked with those people, kind of apprenticed, and then they went off and found investors and opened another show. But now a lot of shows are run by teams of women, because we've been the ones getting stuff done in the industry, and now we have more experience than anybody else because we've kept reinventing ourselves. Well, there's plenty of artists that are still making the exact same product they made when they first started because their identity is stuck to it. Their ego is tied to, I am a jeweler, I am a potter, I am a clothier. And that is part of why some of them have a hard time hiring teams. So building a good team is necessary if your business is going to grow. Tied to, or kind of as a result of the starving artist narrative, we get stuck in, I can't afford a team. I can't afford a team. Or if I get a team, then I didn't make all my art. So team building for me as a restaurateur, I've always had at least 50 people at my fall show. I might be frozen. I've always had 50 employees, and this year I'm going to have 100. I'm tripling my footprint here. And so I'm having to be more conscious of how I communicate company culture. I've always had 2/3 to 3/4 of my employees return, and so it was kind of organically communicated. Now, hiring another 50%, increasing my payroll to 100 employees during the fall show, I've got to have it visible. I need to have my people know who we are in the community, know who we are in the industry, and also know who we are in the storyline, because the park has a storyline of the name of the village, where it is in the world, who the royalty is. And so that gives us a piece of the story that we're creating. Everyone on my counter is in a costume. They all have a character. They're all speaking in dialect. My kitchen is doing everything they can to keep the food, this delicious, amazing food moving, that doesn't then interfere with the storyline being created in the front. So we're really clear that a Renaissance festival, and especially this Renaissance festival, is more than a state fair that also has costumes. We're serving beautiful food in a very foodie related market. We're just outside of Houston, Texas. And you're not going to find food at any of my 10 shops that you could find at a state fair. There might be an exception or two. I'm going to sell turkey legs because people like turkey legs, but I'm also going to sell baguettes. I'm also going to do a turkey brie and green apple panini, because menu's one of my things. It's one of my mediums for my artistry. Oh, Lynette, you should come out. We'll be open in October and November. It's the Texas Renaissance Festival. We will have 500,000 visitors in 17 days. But the the venue itself, turkey legs pay the mortgage or part of it. But they're not they don't feed my creativity, Lynette, the way that building beautiful sandwiches do. Oh, there's a lovely show in winter in Arizona. But back to having a team and having them know what it is you want to be and having them help you communicate that. There's an entrepreneurial scale. Like when people start a business, you start a business because there's a need in the market. So you see that there's a product that's not out, or there's a service that's not being presented, and you say, oh, I could do that. I could do that. I'm going to start a business because people need this thing. And then you have your sole proprietor business and you're doing the things. And then you might hire a person, but then you lose a little control. But 2 people can get more done than 1 person. 5 people can get more done than 1 person. And you can manage those 5 people. But when you get up here where you need 50 people, now you can really do some volume. You can affect more lives. You can serve more food. But you are no longer in contact with all 50 employees. You are now managing your management team. So you've let go of more control. Back to company culture being communicated, that fixes a lot of the problems that could happen here. But there is no micromanaging that can happen with 50 employees. Now, I don't mind if my middle management does a little micromanaging, because they've got to train people. We're in a short season. There's a lot of training that has to happen. But the 50 employees, 100 employees, 1 person really can only effectively manage like 6 people. And so you've got to have tiers of management in there. I recommend a flow chart. Draw a flow chart of who answers to who, whose responsibilities are where. And then when you're hiring people, ask them some ridiculous questions. Please, please ask them something that will get them out of their work mind and get them into a real conversation. I want to know what the last book was that they read. I want to know if they, and I recommend writing your own little, if you're going to take resumes, then make a Google form with 5 ridiculous questions, just to give yourself a chance to have a real conversation with somebody. What's the weirdest place you ever traveled to? Do you think that life is the result of circumstances one is handed, or the result of choices one is making? A, B, and leave a blank and allow them to put other, if that's what or a combo or whatever. I learned when hiring 15-year-olds for their first job, it's always circumstances, because it's decisions their parents are making. But I have literally hired thousands of people for their first jobs. It is a special little niche, and it's also a beautiful place to land in someone's life, because those kids grow to be adults. I am still friends with multiple generations of people that worked their first job for me, and now I'm watching their children graduate from college, So I think it's an honor. I love it. The opportunity to mentor young people is one of the great joys of my life. But the realities of trying to hire someone who's terrified is it's something to consider. And so that's why I recommend asking some ridiculous questions, because just the answering of it will put them at ease. And it works for grown-ups too. it's kind of fun to go, why do you want to know what I read? I said, because I want to know that you're a person. I want to know something about you as a person. I don't just want to know where you last ran a kitchen. I want to know who you are, because that helps me put you on the right segment of the team. I've got my drama guys together over here. I've got all my team sports people. They are on their own team. And if I need to staff somebody, my husband's managing fewer shops than he used to, but my husband was trained to be a basketball coach. If I give him all the team sports kids, they stay for decades because they all speak the same language. They know what they're doing and how to change a play in the middle. And they use languaging that doesn't work for us drama queers and, jazz choir kids. My management style is very different. Mine's very elbow to elbow, very, we joked for years that the perfect management style was halfway between the two of us. And we've both kind of edged that way over the years. But the beauty of hiring a bunch of small teams is that those teams can, under the umbrella of the company culture, create their own culture and create their own, work into their own strengths and allow collaborations and creativity that won't come out if you don't take the time to think about balancing the personalities within the team. And because our season is so compressed, which, by the way, if you've ever been in restaurants, this is the way to do it. I have 10 restaurants. They're going to be open to the public for 17 days. We're going to do $1.5 million in that time. We ask for a lot of work from our employees, but they make really good money for the Houston market. I pay well, and then they pool tips, so everybody goes home with $35 to $75 an hour. And there might be some bartender exceptions to that make more, but it's still some really long days, and you're not just performing, but you're performing without there's not a lot of backstage. Suzanne, there is enough money to go around. I love paying a good wage for my people. And that's part of why I normally don't have a challenge of hiring, because all my people come back. It's just that I'm in this huge expansion that suddenly I'm really having to think about where to find people. So it's on my mind a lot, this whole team, what makes the perfect team, what's the best setup I can give them. It's very much on my mind this summer as I'm doing the hiring. But the team, on the entrepreneurial scale, your team can allow you to make a lot more money than you can make without them. But if you have to micromanage, if your ego is all wrapped around what I can do or what my craft is, what my art is, then you have a hard time. You have a hard time letting go of some of the control. Now, with artists in particular have this problem. We had a good friend, he's now passed, who was a sculptor, and he built these very musical, beautiful water fountain sculptures out of brass and bronze. he used a piece of driftwood, and he made these little cups that the water flowed through, and then he had leaves and other pieces. He did not cut those leaves out. He hired people to do piecework, who then kind of were apprenticing to learn the craft. And they made all of the components so that all he had to do was his beautiful artistic pulling together of the elements. And nobody has that he wasn't the artist, because he was okay with that. Like, but I talk to artists probably once a week. Somebody is at that challenge of, okay, I'm making all I can possibly sell. How can I change? What's the next shift that I can do in my jewelry business? I have pushed up to where it is prices, and this was just spoken about right before I came on. I've pushed it up into prices that I think are unrealistic. Why? Why do you think they're unrealistic? Because you think you have to work hard for your money. And artists will come together and they'll say, okay, here's the deal. You do a lot of beadwork in your jewelry. You're doing some casting for your jewelry. You could either increase the number of cast pieces that are going onto the thing, or you could do all the layout and allow someone else to do the beading and the knotting. It would still be your art. And the pushback that happens for the artist there, because she's got her ego tied to how much she can do and how much she can produce. And she can't let go of that piece of control to get herself up the entrepreneurial scale one step to hire 2 or 3 people to do the beading and knotting. So I don't know that that's any more true with artists than with other people. It's just the world that I live in. So it feels that it's more true for artists. But the fact that I'm able to do what I can do is because I build good teams. And I'm willing to gamble on food items that, I mean, would I make more money selling funnel cakes at the first food on the right inside the festival? Maybe, but that's not who I am. I don't want to sell funnel cakes here. I want to sell beautiful sandwiches, and I'm pulling together a team that wants to sell beautiful sandwiches. We want to take our industry is 50 years old, which means it's really brand new. It's still in development. And so we're on that development edge of it with menu and presentation. And that's who I'm looking for my team, is who wants to be doing this in the industry? Who wants to stretch our guests a little bit? You know, it's already hard to, like, you can't buy a hot dog at a Renaissance fair. Why? Because hot dogs were invented in Chicago. You know, we don't want it to be that easy. We want you to transport to another place. We want you to feel a moment out of your own time, out of your own timeline when you come to a Renaissance festival. And so presenting a menu that feels like an experience, presenting an interaction from the counter that feels like an experience. Those are parts of how we fit into the whole park scenario. You know, like the ridiculous things you see behind me here. These are crowns I wear on show days. These are flower crowns, because I have to be in costume to manage my restaurant. And I love that. I love that. The fact that I've now created a venue that is my artistic expression, and then I find a team to help me express it, is just an absolute joy. It really is. So one of the things that's a great blessing in this is we as an industry have been making this up as we went along the whole time. And so there's no path, there's no shoulds. There's no, I should be at this point by now in my career, because what the hell does a Renaissance Festival career look like? You know, no one knows. It's different for the potter. It's different for the jeweler. It's different for the service provider that, oh, hey, lockers would be a cool idea. I wonder if I could open a business renting lockers, because nobody else is doing that and people would probably like it. You're just like always looking for the next idea, which I love. You know, you got to stay creative. Someone was the first person to make a funnel cake at an outdoor event and make a pile of money on it. So, excuse me. So what's that next item? What's the next beautiful thing that's going to happen? It might not come from my brain. It might come from collaboration with my team, because I now have more people that understand my vision, that are helping to present it, and they then have their own inputs in conversations. You know, somebody says, oh, you know, we do a high tea, but we don't really have much going on afterwards. What if we did champagne cocktails? Because the majority of your bakery business late in the day is sweets. So we could do a line of champagne cocktails that paired with the cakes that the bakery's doing, and maybe get some traffic into the tea room in the afternoon, in the late day. That wasn't my idea. That was somebody else who's familiar with my product line from my bakery and familiar with, I have a wine and beer license in the tea room. So being willing to listen to people and have inputs come at me. Now, have I had to say, don't try to change this now, we're in the middle of a rush, we'll talk about this Tuesday? Absolutely. Absolutely. But the fact that my people are thinking is because I've invited them to think. I haven't told them every last tiny step of what they have to do. And that's the beauty of the team. And so the company is bigger than I could be. I just have to hold a vision for what all those people could be doing, and hold an energy willing to take the brunt if some of those ideas are wrong. Like, okay, that was a mistake, we fixed it. But it's part of running a 7-figure business. Sometimes the gamble doesn't pay off. You know, I have a gamble happening. I'm gambling this year on baguettes. It's not a big gamble. I have a wine flight booth, one of my new shops. It's wine flights and charcuterie, and salads. And I think that turkey legs aren't sold because they're delicious. They're tasty. I think they're sold because they're part of the costume that you expect when you go to a Renaissance fair. They're part of, oh, look, I look like, you don't actually look like Henry because turkeys are a New World bird, but I think that the turkey leg is a prop. And so I think that a baguette is a prop. And so I'm going to sell hot baguettes out of my wine booth and tell people that they have to be balanced. Like you can't have we sell, if there's 2 or 3 people, we can sell them the bottle of wine. And I'm going to tell them, oh, you're out of balance. You need a baguette. Do you want brie or butter? Or do you just want to go around with this? So it might not be a home run, but it might. It's a gamble. I think it's a great prop. So that's one of my fun gambles that I'm doing this year. So does anybody have any questions? I don't necessarily have a way to wrap this up except to say that I totally believe in teams. But
I'll help you wrap it up.
Okay, great.
That's what I'm here for.
Fabulous.
This was so amazing, and I love all the comments that have gone by. Erica says, such amazing insights you give on being an artist. I love it. Lynette says, I love your creativity. Ilana says, Ilana's an artist. This is transformative thinking. I just think what you do is amazing, but I have to share here because Rhonni is downplaying herself in a big way. A big way. Now I get to work up close and personal with Rhonni. She's in my mastermind, the Elevate Her. This woman this year has done some of the most incredible things I've seen. She owned 3 restaurants at the Texas Ren Fair when I met her. And she has negotiated her way to now owning a total of 9 restaurants at the Texas Ren Fair. She's about to open 6 brand new restaurants to her. They're existing businesses, but she's redoing their menus. She was doing $1 million in 17 days, and she's telling you she's going to do about $1.5 million, but actually she's got 6 new restaurants coming online. And so she's now hiring for 6 restaurants instead of 3. She's very much downplaying her success. But what's amazing to me about Rhonni is not only the creative way that she thinks, but the way that she understands how people move through experiences. I used to be an experience designer in the software industry, and she has taken what I used to do with software and made it into a human experience. So like I'm constantly saying, Rhonni, you should go to consult to Disney and help them make their theme parks work. Can you tell people about your pinball methodology? Because I think it is just freaking genius.
So when you're laying out a park, you have to think about how the public moves through the park. And we don't want them to know that they're being moved, right? So the analogy works that our guest is a pinball. And places where we kind of store up energy, like a stage show where people are kind of waiting and they're all there and then at 45 minutes they get let out into the crowd again. Well, that's like a flipper. And the placement of a cart or a 360 in the middle of a pathway has huge effect on which direction people go when they're walking towards it. And so, I mean, literally 3 feet can make a huge difference of keeping people on or off of a booth line where we want them to be shopping. So these are all elements and the size of them. Like if this gets too big, now it doesn't work. It has to be like a cart, it has to be small. The other element is when people are released from a flipper, like a stage show, how people function in a crowd is different than they function when it's our family of 3 and we're walking through the park and we see a sign and we think about going that direction. When we're walking because our show just let out, we are responding to the 4 bodies closest to us and we move what direction they're moving. It's like a flock of starlings. It's not an individual making a decision. It is a crowd that is going to move like starlings or water. They're going to look for the widest passageway because that looks the best. And if they end up in a narrower passageway, they're going to speed up, just like water does. So if you are an artist that has a narrow path in front of your shop, you have to know that the public passes you faster than they do in an eddy. If any of you have been to the shops at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, this is absolutely in play. The path is narrow. You don't really know where you're going. You don't see daylight. You don't know actually how to get out. You're just walking because there has to be an exit somewhere. And you may or may not look at these shops. And there's the benches are, broken pillars, that they've got a whole thematic thing happening. And it's just average mall shops happening until it opens up and everyone slows. And those are all Fifth Avenue designer stores. Where everybody slows down, those are the stores. That's Louis Vuitton, that's Chanel. This is the stores that have a bodyguard that only let one person in at a time. That's the stores that have that real estate, because that real estate's worth more because of how people move through space. So next time you go, you're going to walk and then there's going to be an Italian restaurant in front of you and a big open space, and you'll realize the quality of the shops is completely different than the mile you just walked. So
it's so fascinating to me how you think about these things. And I remember when we met, and you are a change maker in your being. And since this conference is about future her and this idea of reimagining a world that works for all people, not some people. And I know you work with folks of all kinds of backgrounds. Mm-hmm. I'd love for you to say, in the unique, weird place that you work, where you spend your time with the kinds of people you hang out with, what is the future calling for them? What is the redesign that we want for artists, for unique individuals, for people who don't fit in the matrix, for people who their gift, their zone of genius is their weirdness, their amazingness, their ability to act or sing or dance or run restaurants, that we can find art in all of the things we do? What do they want? What's the request for the redesign?
Well, I will say we have built some of our own nonprofits to cover the fact that there's not a group health insurance. There's not an emergency fund. I mean, we work in an outdoor entertainment venue. The pandemic was terrifying. We didn't know if our industry was going to reopen. And then we actually learned that not only was it going to reopen, but it was going to be gangbusters because we were outdoors and everyone wanted to go do something. Now the industry is in a huge boom. Multiple parks have had to set capacities, and they've never had to do that before. They had to switch to dated tickets so that they can control how many people come today, because everybody wants to come. But that doesn't always trickle down to individual artists making money. Some of that is the structure of the industry itself, in that I'm only open to the public for 2 days. I know multiple artists who pushed back so hard about they wouldn't even get business cards because they wanted to close the sale. If they think they can get this for me any time of year, I'm not going to close the sale on this sculpture, this $3,000 sculpture that I made. And then come the pandemic, they're frantically trying to build a website, and they don't have a connection to their clients that do buy stuff from them, But this industry, we don't have, because we're a bunch of pirates crammed onto a ship together. We're all, even management, and I've been in management in parks before, it's herding cats, because all those artists are out there because they want to be self-employed. They want to run their own operation. And so getting them to agree in the first place on what an insurance plan we might all go in on together is a challenge, you know. But we have we're making headway. Now what they do, but they probably need let's see, whether artists are going to agree on it or we get a government plan that allows affordable healthcare is up for let's just hold out for possibility on what that could look like. But there's not a lot of safety nets.
Do your artists count as gig economy workers?
Maybe they might.
That would be a really interesting thing to look into,
Yeah,
because there's all kinds of benefits for gig economy workers now.
right. And there are some good, there's good single person 401k kind of stuff that some of us are getting little circles and getting people to talk about more.
Mhm.
So
you should ask Michaela.
oh, there's
Michaela from Goldman Sachs, who was here yesterday. You can check her out and ask her. I bet she'd have some really good answers. There's someone here with a question. Let's just pull this question. Amazing, this reimagining concept. A question. I'm an artist and Dutch writer, also in the Netherlands. What do you think? All my energy goes to writing nowadays, a novel series about ancient Greece. What do you think on going back to sculpting that I have not done in years? It takes space, or shall I sell sculptures I do have? My focus is on the book and on the drawing outdoor this summer.
Well, I would, this whole all artists, so many of us are multi-talented, multi-medium people. You're writing about ancient Greece and you're a sculptor. So that's immediately a tie-in for me. So do you want to sell the sculptures? Because if you could talk about the sculptures and the fact that you're writing, could be promoting both things, you know. If the sculptures aren't taking up much room, then they can be the back. Maybe they need to be the photograph that's the cover of your book. I mean, you are all of these things. And what I found is artists that are able to hold on to being multiple things do a lot better because they're more flexible when the market changes. Or it's like, okay, I have a fall show. People don't buy jewelry for themselves at the fall, but they buy presents. You know, they don't buy costume at fall shows because they're buying Christmas presents. So I do both. But it also, like, what's the time investment on selling sculptures? Do you have to then schedule a show in? And if you're scheduling a show in at which you're going to sell your sculptures, can you also sell your books? Can you wait till the book is done and sell the sculptures and books out of the same booth at an art show?
Love all of that. That's so good. So good. So if you guys want to stay in touch with Rhonni, her Instagram is at Rhonni Rocks, and you can find her in the guides. And is there anything else that you would invite people into your world? Something special they should know about?
I do consulting for people building parks and for people who are entering that permanent park art venue. There's a lot to know about the industry because people build their own shops or they buy and improve a shop to fit for their product. And things as simple as don't make your doorway 4 feet wide. I know it'll be easier to close up at the end of the day, but one stroller and you're shut down. You know, just like there's just a lot of nuance for that. So, and I'm at Rhonni.com, RHONNI.com.
I love it. Thank you so much for bringing your genius here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh
It
my
was a
God,
blast.
you are, it's so cool to see someone doing it so outside of that stupid box that people talk about. I don't believe in boxes. I don't believe they exist. Rhonni clearly lives with no box. And I think that's why I just adore you so much and how that you're making so much change in the world. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your talent. And I love you so much. And I will see you on our call on Monday.
Okay, great. Mwah. Bye-bye.
Bye.